The episode opens with Wednesday and Thea making a pit stop at the Jericho coroner's office. Wednesday hopes to further examine the homeless man's body for potential case-breaking clues. She records her findings as she closely inspects the corpse. Suddenly, the sheriff and the coroner arrive in the office, so Wednesday hides. The pair discuss the case, and the coroner shows the sheriff the severed foot from the homeless man. It's missing 2 toes. After the sheriff departs, the coroner notices one of the doors on the mortuary shelf is cracked open. He finds Wednesday within, but the goth teenager is excellent at pretending to be a corpse, so he doesn't suspect anything. The scene cuts to Miss Thornhill's class, where everyone's abuzz about the upcoming Raven dance. Xavier tells our protagonist about it, but she'd rather stick needles in her eyes. She later snoops around in Xavier's mysterious art studio and finds a plethora of sketches that look exactly like the monster. She hurriedly grabs a few drawings and flees, only to find the artist himself standing outside. Thankfully, he doesn't suspect anything and instead muses whether she might ask him to the Raven dance. To conceal her breaking into his studio, Wednesday asks Xavier to accompany her to the dance. He accepts. Next, Wednesday visits the sheriff with Xavier's drawings. The sheriff holds one sketch next to the photo he found on the homeless man's camera roll. It's a match. The sheriff reluctantly agrees to work with her if she brings substantial evidence to the table. She does suspect Xavier, though. After all, he can bring artwork to life. Meanwhile, Enid runs into Lucas at the coffee shop. Lucas is the mayor's son and a flatline bully. He asks Enid out to the Raven, to which she accepts immediately. Wednesday runs into Tyler, who expresses a romantic interest in her. He wants to attend the dance with her. However, Wednesday claims she must prioritize hurting Tyler's feelings. Then, Wednesday accompanies Eugene to the beekeeping club. She shows him the sketches, and Eugene seems to recognize the cave in the picture. He then takes her to a nearby cave, claiming that he saw it when he was out researching bees. There, they find a claw lodged in the cave wall. Next, Wednesday returns to Xavier's art studio to find a piece of evidence with DNA that'll match the claw. She finds a blood rag and puts it inside her bag. Suddenly, Xavier catches her red-handed. He realizes she had ulterior motives for asking him to the dance. Wednesday inquires if Heza the monster. Xavier explains that this creature has been haunting his dreams for a while, so he sketched its likeness on paper. Unfortunately, the beast came to life, and its claws scratched Xavier's neck. Having realized that Wednesday had tricked him, Xavier angrily kicks her out. Later, our goth gal drops the claw and bloody rag on the sheriff's desk. Shay then orders him to run tests on them. Meanwhile, Thing discreetly types a note on Wednesday's typewriter and drops it off at the coffee shop for Tyler to read. It's Raven dance night. While other students attend the event, wearing glamorous dresses, Wednesday plans to do cave research with Eugene. Suddenly, Tyler knocks on her door with a bouquet. Turns out, Thing crafted a tender apology for Tyler, luring him to the dance on Wednesday. He also managed to get a gorgeous black gown. Initially, Wednesday is annoyed with Thing for acting without her knowledge. However, all is forgiven when she says the stunning dress. Tyler is smitten when he sees our protagonist adorned in that dress. Sadly, Eugene is taken aback to find Wednesday changing plans all of a sudden. She reassures him that they'll resume their investigation the following day. She also urges him not to go into the woods alone. However, he defies her order and embarks on a solo quest. On the dance floor, everybody is stunned to see Wednesday clad in such a beautiful dress. Xavier cannot contain his feelings for her, so he approaches her. He finally tells her about the lingering beef between him and the sheriff's son. After that, Wednesday informs Tyler about her conversation with Xavier. We learn that Tyler used to hang out with the bullies. They destroyed Xavier's wall painting and assaulted him during last year's outreach day. Tyler explains he's not that person anymore. Wednesday doesn't blame him, claiming she would have gone further. Meanwhile, we see Lucas text his friends, who plan on exacting revenge against the outcasts for the burning of the Joseph Crackstone statue. Next, Wednesday performs her exceptional goth dance steps on the floor, surprising everyone. Elsewhere in Thea Woods, Eugene has returned to the cave site he observes while someone sets it on fire. Back in the dance, Lucas and the bullies turn on the sprinklers at the dance, squirting Radar liquid all over. The dance floor is now drowned in red paint. Everyone screams and tries to run, but they just end up falling again and again. Suddenly, Wednesday has a vision featuring a terrified Eugene and his death. Wasting no time, she runs for the woods to find him. Meanwhile, Eugene tries to escape the monster after hearing its snarls. A Wednesday calls out for him, but to no avail. Unfortunately, the creature attacks Eugenia before she can reach him. When she finds Eugene, he's covered head to toe in blood. Thea class teacher Miss Thornhill also arrives at the scene and inquires if he's alive. In the next scene, we see Wednesday flipping through her father's police file. We flash back 32 years ago to one stormy night when young Larissa finds a dead body in the Nevermore courtyard. A young Gomez stands on some scaffolding while holding a sword. He is covered in blood. We see the police taking Gomez away, while young Morticia confesses she's never been more in love with him than watching him get handcuffed for murder. Now, we're in the present for Nevermore's Parents' Weekend. Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, and Lurch arrive in style. As per usual, Principal Larissa delivers a speech for all of the visiting families and their students. Enid laments the entrance of her werewolf family. Sure enough, Enid's mother instantly criticizes her daughter, namely for not developing her lycanthrope abilities. Meanwhile, Morticia and Gomez meet their child and question her about her time at Nevermore. We also see Bianca's mother, Gabriele, making an appearance at the event. Later, Morticia peruses Larissa's yearbook and reminisces on fond memories. She remembers when Larissa and Morticia performed for the talent show, and Larissa's Judy Garland impression was spot on. Principal Larissa informs the Addams crew that Wednesday's therapist wants them to attend a group session. The Addams agree to get therapized. Meanwhile, Sheriff Galpin is on his phone at the coffee shop, asking about the DNA test in the monster's claw. He spots the arrival of the Addams family's sleek black car. Then, the sheriff gets a call regarding the medical examiner, Dr. Anwar, who committed suicide. Next, the Addams clan sits with Dr. Valerie Kinbot for a group chat. Pugsley admits that he misses his sister, as do Gomez and Morticia. But Wednesday is in for something else. She whips out her father's police file and demands some answers. Who is Garrett Gates, and why did Gomez kill him? A furious Morticia reprimands her daughter for searching up this info now. This is an old case and the charges against Gomez were dropped. Enraged, Morticia storms out. Then, Wednesday tells her mother she plans to dig deep into whether the latter supports her. Meanwhile, Bianca meets with Gabrielle at the coffee shop, who reveals the real reason why she's in town. Gabrielle leads a cult called A Morning Song, where she manipulates people for money. However, her siren song is weakening. She married a guy Bianca despises named Gideon, and they both hope Bianca, who changed her Namia when she arrived at Nevermore, will come home soon. Otherwise, Gabrielle will have to let slip the news that Bianca cheated her way into the academy. In the next scene, Wednesday visits Eugene in the hospital. The poor boy is in a coma in the ICU. Our goth girl blames herself for allowing the monster to attack Eugene. Eugene's mothers pop in for a visit, and they thank Wednesday for her friendship as Eugene never had any friend. Elsewhere, the sheriff stops by the morgue to survey the scene. Dr. Anwar left a note before killing himself, claiming his regret is forging documents on a murder case from 3 decades ago. Unfortunately, someone put black gum on the camera, so it's obscured and the police won't be able to know what really happened to Dr. Anwar. However, the sheriff believes the case the late coroner regretted manipulating was Thea Gomez Addams, Garrett Gates one. Now he has the evidence. He needs to lock up Gomez. Next, Wednesday watches while Morticia lays a red rose on Garrett's grave. While everyone's feasting in the school courtyard for the festivities, Sheriff Galpin barges into arrest Gomez. The Addams family stands in shock as Gomez is handcuffed and taken away. Later, Wednesday and Thing visit her father in jail. She demands to know the truth. He reveals that Garrett became obsessed with Morticia was stalking her. Even Morticia reported Ida to the police, but to no avail. Finally, Gomez took an enraged Garrett down. After hearing his story, Wednesday's not so sure her father is guilty. Meanwhile, Enid's mother presents her with brochures for a lycanthrope conversion summer camp. The camp is meant for Enid to forcefully turn her into a werewolf as she hasn't become one yet. Naturally, Enid protests this. Later, we see Morticia standing in the meeting place for the nightshades when Wednesday visits her. Morticia discloses the truth of what occurred that fateful night. While Gomez was attempting to fend off Garrett, Morticia noticed how the latter foamed at the mouth in pure rage. Left with no choice, she stabbed him. After his body fell onto the courtyard below and was subsequently discovered by Larissa, Gomez grabbed the sword and urged Morticia to hide in her room. Turns out, Gomez took the blame for Morticia. After hearing that Garrett was foaming at the mouth, Wednesday muses whether he was plagued with something. Morticia follows her daughter's train of thought. Thus, the duo embarks on a trip to the Jericho cemetery. Wednesday digs up Garrett's grave for evidence, but the cops catch them and arrest the pair. We see them thrown into a cell next to Gomez. Thankfully, Wednesday managed to retrieve something from the grave and shows it to her parents. It's a finger tinged with blue, the color of Nightshade. They realize that Garrett was already dying when Morticia stabbed him. Nightshade poisoned him. Suddenly, Wednesday has a vision. In the vision, Garrett's father orders Garrett to poison everyone at Nevermore with Nightshade. We see a vial of poison pass between the two. Wednesday notes that said vial broke in Garrett's pocket, thereby poisoning him. After their release, our mother-daughter duo presents their case to Mayor Walker. Morticia accuses him of saving his own skin when she informed him about Garrett stalking her. Walker did nothing about it when he was a sheriff. He tried to cover up the case. Wednesday then shows him Garrett's nightshade finger. Morticia orders Walker to let her husband go free, otherwise, she'll expose him for the fraud he is. Thankfully, he complies. As a consequence, all charges against Gomez are dropped a second time. Even Sheriff Galpin apologizes to Gomez, and the two shake hands. Meanwhile, Enid takes a stand against her mother and orders the latter to accept her for who she is. She'll turn into a werewolf when the time is right for her. At the end of the parent-teacher weekend, Wednesday bids farewell to her family. Later, after peering in Larissa's yearbook, Wednesday confronts her principal. Larissa didn't just imitate Judy Garland for Nevermore's talent show, she became Judy Garland. This means Wednesday has found out the truth about their principal. She is a shapeshifter. She transformed into Rowan the day after his murder. To convince everyone that nothing was amiss, Larissa claims she did what she could to shield the school from controversy. Wednesday asks the shapeshifting principal how she's protecting Eugene. Suddenly, Larissa and Wednesday hear clamoring and shouts. Outside, they find the message "Fire will rain" written in fire on the school lawn. The episode opens with Wednesday performing a ritual to contact her ancestor, Goody Addams. She hopes that her ancestor will help her in controlling her psychic power. Enid pops in, breaking Wednesday's concentration. Willie the two chat. A mysterious someone's lips. A note card underneath their door. Ida says if Wednesday wants answers, she must go to Joseph Crackstone's crypt at midnight. Enid accompanies Wednesday to the crypt and it turns out to be a birthday surprise party for our goth heroine. As they sing her happy birthday, she notices the writing on the old fireplace is the same as the writings burned on the school's lawn. Suddenly, she gets a vision and sees Goody warning her about Crackstone's impending visit. Goody cannot help her hone her psychic powers, but Shay can direct Wednesday toward her next step. The latter must explore the decrepit mansion looming before them. It holds the answers she seeks. Elsewhere, Principal Larissa visits the mayor and asks for his help tracking down the delinquents who left the burning a message in her school. The mayor is happy to oblige and also tells her they are working on finding the person behind the recent attacks. Back at the academy, Xavier stands next to a Wednesday while she examines the firewall rain message on the school lawn. Xavier tries to find out the vision Wednesday had in the crypt. Since she still views him as a suspect in the ongoing investigation, she refuses to disclose any information. Later, Wednesday visits Eugene, who's still in a coma. Dr. Valerie Kenbot enters the room with the flowers. Eugene's mom's asked the doctor to check upon him when they head home for a few days. Shay tries to get close to Wednesday but she is not looking for a free session, so she leaves the room. Meanwhile, the mayor continues his investigation. He receives the death certificate of Garrett's sister who supposedly drowned while overseas. He is suspicious of her death and wants to make sure it is not related to the recent attacks. In the local coffee shop, Wednesday visits Tyler, who wants to take her out on a date on her birthday. However, as usual, she gives him the cold shoulder. The sheriff drops in and Wednesday informs him about what she found in Crackstone's crypt, but he essentially tells her to stop investigating the case. Later, Wednesday and Thing visit Xavier in his art studio. She shows him a sketch she created of the creepy gated mansion from her vision. Xavier whips out the drawing he made of the same area, revealing he started having those strange dreams again. The gated mansion used to belong to the Gates family. The next morning, Wednesday visits the mansion and sees the mayor leaving the house. She and Thing hop in the back of his car after overhearing his voicemail to the sheriff. He thinks he has figured out who is behind the attacks and asks to meet the sheriff at the cafe. He drives to the cafe, unaware that Wednesday and Thing are hiding behind. When they arrive in town, a blue Cadillac hits the mayor as he crosses the street to meet with the sheriff. Following the incident, the sheriff records a statement from Wednesday, who claims she crawled into the back of Walker's car to learn more about what he had discovered at the Gates mansion. Once back at Nevermore, the principal reprimands Wednesday by revoking her outside privileges, that is, going into town. The next morning, Wednesday calls Tyler and tells him that she has reconsidered his offer for a date, but we know that this is only an excuse for our heroine to get out of the academy and continue her investigation. She then tricks Enid to sneak out of the school and have a redo of her birthday party. They sneak out and Tyler picks them up outside. Meanwhile, Xavier knocks on Wednesday and Enid's window, wherein he finds Thing pounding away on the typewriter. Thing reveals to him where the girls are headed. Next, our trio forges ahead into the Gates mansion. Much to Enid and Tyler's shock, they finally realize they have been tricked by Wednesday. Tyler is disappointed as he thought they were going on a private date. Enid is disappointed as she thought they were going to have a girls' night out. However, they continue with Wednesday inside the mansion. At the mansion, Wednesday uncovers the blue Cadillac that struck the mayor. Then, while inside, she finds a hidden altar for Joseph Crackstone, and the candles are still warm. Everyone splits up to search the ostensibly haunted mansion. Next, Enid calls for Wednesday, and the pair investigate one bedroom that appears perfectly organized and tidy. The bed's made, and their area fresh flowers. Wednesday finds a music box with the initials LG on it. Laurel Gates. That's the name of the file Walker perused earlier. Before they can investigate further, Enid and Wednesday hear Tyler screaming for help, warning them about the monster. The monster chases the girls through the house, and they find themselves in a basement. In the basement, they find the trophies the monster took from his victims. These trophies are body parts that belong to the murderer's victims. They don't have much time, so they get out of the house and circle back to find Tyler. They find him alive but with long claw marks on his chest. Xavier also arrives at that moment and helps them with Tyler. They then take Tyler back to his house. The sheriff wanders in and orders the Nevermore kids to depart. Next, Wednesday takes the sheriff back to Thea Gates' house, but everything has been cleared out. There is no sign of the trophies or Thea monster. The sheriff thinks that she is lying and he is angry that she endangered his son's life. A Wednesday is forbidden from seeing his son again. Once back in her room, she examines the music box that she retrieved from the mansion. Suddenly, a flurry of photos falls out from its bottom. They're all of Wednesday and her loved ones. Elsewhere in the hospital, we see someone with a gloved hand unplugging Walker's ventilator. While unconscious in the hospital, the next scene shows Mayor Walker's funeral. Whoever unplugged his ventilator effectively killed him. Wednesday observes the mourners, thoroughly convinced that the murderer is right under her nose. Suddenly, she spots a stranger lurking in the distance. She follows the stranger into the surrounding woods to discover it's none other than Uncle Fester. Fester tells his niece he needs a place to lay low for a few days after a job. A Wednesday puts him up in Eugene's beehive barn. She then discusses her case at hand with her uncle. Fester mentions the creature our heroine is looking for is called Hyde. Nathaniela Faulkner, who founded Nevermore Academy, studied the monsters extensively. Fester reveals that Faulkner kept his diary in the Nightshades library. Wednesday proposes they head there later to retrieve it. Later that night, Wednesday visits the secret Nightshades room. The uncle-niece duo absconds with Faulkner's diary. Next, Wednesday peruses the diary. She finds plenty of information on Hydes. They're artists by nature, meaning they are normal people. The Hyde side remains dormant until Samyania unlocks it via hypnosis or chemical inducement. It can also be unleashed as the result of a traumatic event. The Hyde inevitably bonds with its liberator, aka its master. The next morning, Wednesday spies on Xavier, as she is convinced he is the monster. Che and Fester secretly follow him and spy on him as he meets Dr. Kinbot in the woods. She thinks that Dr. Kinbot is the master, and rushes to tell the principal. However, when she arrives at the principal's office, Wednesday is shocked to find the therapist there and decides not to inform the principal anymore. Later, Wednesday visits the cafe and shows the diary to Tyler. His dad sees them and chooses to ignore him. He is busy trying to find Fester, who apparently was involved in a bank robbery. After the sheriff leaves, Tyler asks Wednesday on a date and refuses to take no for an answer. They plan to meet at the Crackstones crypt. Later that night, Wednesday goes to the date and asks Thing to stay back and watch the diary. At the crypt, Tyler has prepared a sweet and romantic date and Wednesday finds herself enjoying it. Tyler reasserts his desire to be more than friends, but our goth girl tries to talk him out of it. When Tyler romantically inches closer to kiss, his father, the sheriff, barges in with his team. The cops are looking for Fester. After her interrupted date, Wednesday returns to her dorm to find it ransacked. Whoever did this also stole Faulkner's diary. The culprit also stabbed Thing through the palm and affixed him to the wall. Wednesday rushes Thing to Uncle Fester and demands he does something. Fester warms up his electrical abilities and attempts to resuscitate Thing via electroshock. Thankfully, Fester succeeds, bringing Thing back to life. Wednesday asks her uncle to leave the school premises the next day as the police are closing in. The next day, Bianca and Luca approach Wednesday and tell her they have information on the person who killed the mayor. Lucas found some information his dad left on his laptop. He thinks his dad recognized Laura Landa was about to out her when she killed him. According to them, a 90-year-old heiress purchased the Gates mansion and passed a year later. Her caretaker's name was an anagram of Laurel Gates. So, Laurel returned to Jericho to exact revenge on those who harmed her family. Wednesday's parents, the mayor, and the coroner are prime examples of this. Wednesday suspects that Dr. Valerie Kinbot is the killer. Next, she decides to visit her therapist Dr. Kinbot, who she thinks is the master of the Hyde, and confront her. The therapist is confused by her accusations and thinks Wednesday has finally lost it. After Wednesday leaves, Dr. Kinbot calls the principal to complain about Wednesday's vile accusations. While on the phone, she hears someone in the bathroom. Upon opening the door, we see the Hyde monster spring on the doctor. Later, Principal Larissa sits with Wednesday in the hospital's waiting room when the sheriff informs them of Dr. Kinbott's death. Wednesday decides to end it all, so she goes to Xavier's secret art studio and confronts him. She notes how intricate and accurate his sketches of the Hyde monster are. Xavier continues to deny the accusations. Suddenly, the sheriff and his crew barge into the studio, having found the victim's belongings in Xavier's studio. With evidence on hand, they arrest Xavier. Poor Xavier repeatedly tells the police that he is being framed, but no one believes him. Next, Wednesday wanders into the local coffee shop. After some flirting, she finally kisses Tyler. However, she's slammed to the ground by a powerful vision. In the vision, she sees Dr. Kinbott lying in a pool of blood with none other than Tyler, who has just transformed from a raging monster to a human. He remains shirtless and bloody, looming above Dr. Kinbott's lifeless body. Turns out, Xavier is innocent after all. Wednesday rushes out of the shop post-vision, paralyzed with fear, leaving Tyler confused about what went wrong. Later that night, our heroine calls Tyler into the woods. He thinks it's another date, but Wednesday reveals him as the Hyde monster. Naturally, Tyler denies it and wonders why she would meet him alone if he were the murderous creature. To his surprise, a handful of Nightshade's members, including Bianca and Yokoa, emerge from the shadows to back up Wednesday. They take him to Xavier's art studio and tie him down on the chair with chains. Wednesday starts interrogating him. As it turns out, Tyler's mom was a Hyde and she thinks Tyler got the genes from her. He claims his mother had severe bipolar disorder, but she was a Hyde, as is he. Tyler then vehemently denies everything. Wednesday is not moved by his fake plea and switches it up to torture him, believing that a Hyde only understands pain, so perhaps torturing will trigger Tyler. Next, Wednesday whips out 2 tasers, giving the other students a pause. They didn't sign up for a torture session. We know Wednesday begins shocking Tyler. Others leave as they don't want to be involved anymore. Meanwhile, the sheriff listens to recordings from Dr. Kinbott's sessions with Tyler. Turns out he was one of her clients as well. She explains how the loss of his mother left deeper psychological scars than she initially realized. Just then, the sheriff gets a call from Principal Larissa, informing him about Tyler's kidnapping. Bianca and the others had rushed to inform the principal about what's happening. Next, the sheriff and his crew barge into the art studio before Wednesday can inflict more pain on Tyler. Wednesday and Tyler are taken to the police station. Principal Larissa tells Wednesday that Galpin won't press kidnapping charges. As Wednesday is about to leave the police station, Tyler asks to speak to her privately. He confesses to the crime and tells her that every time he killed, he felt thrilled by his victim's fear. He warns her that she has no idea what is coming next. Consequently, the principal decides enough is enough and expels Wednesday and tells Hira to get ready to leave the school the next afternoon. Wednesday tries to convince Hira to give her more time to prove that Tyler is a Hyde. The principal refuses and says she is disappointed in how Wednesday turned out to be. Next, Wednesday and Enid bid a bittersweet farewell. She even shares a goodbye with Bianca and the Nightshades and warns them to be prepared for what Tyler is planning next. Meanwhile, Miss Thornhill also gives her white oleander as a parting gift and wishes her the best. Before leaving town, Wednesday visits Eugene, who is awake from his coma. At the hospital, Eugene sits upright in his bed, surrounded by bee-themed gifts. Our beekeeping club besties finally reunite. Wednesday asserts that Dr. Kinbott set the Hyde cave ablaze, and she controlled Tyler before he turned on her. However, Eugene recalls seeing someone wearing a black coat and boots before the cavea burst into flames. Red boots, to be exact. Wednesday quickly realizes that the only persona she has seen with red boots is Miss Thornhill. Next, she returns to the school and confronts Miss Thornhill, aka Laurel Gates, In the school's conservatory, Miss Thornhill initially brushes off the accusations but grows increasingly frustrated with Wednesday's persistence. Wednesday tells her that Tyler confessed everything to her. She points out Miss Thornhill's wicked plans and how she triggered Tyler's hide via plant chemicals. Now, Tyler refers to her as his master. Meanwhile, Tyler appears from behind and watches the confrontation. Faced with the bare facts stated by Wednesday, Miss Thornhill confesses and asks Tyler to kill Wednesday, only that Tyler isn't the real one. It is Principal Larissa, who has shapeshifted into the boy. The principal swiftly transforms back, much to Miss Thornhill's surprise. She then asks Miss Thornhill/Laurel to cooperate. Miss Thornhill, at loss, injects Larissa with nightshade poison. Unfortunately, the principal Larissa dies seconds after the poisoning. Then, Miss Thornhill knocks Wednesday unconscious with a shovel. Meanwhile, Eugene video calls Enid and reveals Miss Thornhill is the baddie, and Wednesday and Principal Larissa went to confront her. Enid vows to check the conservatory for them. Just then, Thing arrives and frantically fills Enid in on the dire situation and Wednesday's kidnapping. Then, we see a blood moon rising in the sky. Wednesday wakes in the crypt while chained to the wall. Miss Thornhill reveals her plan to eradicate the school. She is planning to bring back Crackstone using the body parts of Fat Tyler as a hide, collected from his victims. Turns out, Goody didn't only kill Crackstone, she cursed his soul too. Miss Thornhill hopes to use Wednesday to unseal the bloodlock in the tomb that Goody locked Crackstone in. We learn that Wednesday is the key to opening Ida up, as she is the living descendant of Goody. The ritual needs to be done on a night of blood moon, so Miss Thornhill has it all planned. In the meantime, the sheriff is on his way transporting the falsely accused Xavier to prison. But when he gets a call from an officer, alerting him that Eugene's parents believe something wrong is happening at Nevermore, he decides to go to the school. Back at the crypt, Miss Thornhill moves Wednesday to the seal on Crackstone's tomb and slices the latter's hand. The ritual awakens Crackstone. Woe promises his vengeance will be swift and true. Wednesday tries to confront him, but he stabs Hera and they leave her for dead. Thankfully, Goody appears before her and tells her how to defeat a Crackstone. She tells her to use the talisman necklace her mom gave to her. The talisman will allow Goody to pass through Wednesday and heal her, but she will never be able to see her again. Wednesday agrees and is healed by her ancestor. Back at the academy, Enid meets with Bianca and the Nightshades in the Nightshades library. Enid suggests the Nightshades and the Sirens use their manipulative ability to evacuate the school. She then volunteers to take Thing and search the woods for Wednesday. As she rushes to save Wednesday on Blood Moon Night, Anita finally starts transforming into a werewolf. Back in the woods, the sheriff changes his Minda and decides to track the location of his son. He leaves Xavier locked in his car and heads into the woods. Thankfully, Xavier is freed by Thing. After being healed, Wednesday rushes to stop Crackstone but meets Tyler on the way. He morphs into his hide monster and starts attacking her, but Enid appears in her full wolf form and starts fighting the monster. Meanwhile, Crackstone arrives at the school and begins destroying everything in sight. The battle between the werewolf and the hide turns into a brutal, bloody bath. Anita walks away victorious, transforming into a human in time for Thing to find her. The sheriff discovers Tyler lying unconscious and naked in the leaves, covered in blood. Next, Wednesday returns to Nevermore and arms herself with her father's sword. She prepares it to slash Crackstone, but he is too strong. Xavier arrives at the scene and shoots an arrow at a Crackstone, but the Walking Dead turns the arrow back in the former's direction. Wednesday steps in front of it, taking said arrow in the shoulder. Wednesday rises to her feet and continues fighting Crackstone. Unfortunately, her sword snaps into several pieces. Our smart heroine remembers what Goody told her about defeating Crackstone and stabs him in the heart with a piece of what's left of the sword. He dissipates into thin air, but the fight is not over as Miss Thornhill charges in with a gun. Luckily, Eugene makes his grand entrance with his bees and makes them attack her. The school is finally saved. Later, Enid reunites with the Nevermore students hiding out in the woods. Then, she runs to embrace Wednesday. In the next scene, we see the Addams family, a butler, Lurch, removing the last of Wednesday's belongings from her room. Classes have been cancelled for the remainder of the semester. Wednesday bids farewell to her friends and Nana spots Xavier lounging on the floor above her. Xavier gives her a gift. It's a phone, and he even puts his number in the contacts. The final scene of the series shows Lurch driving a Wednesday home. While sitting in the backseat of the family car, she receives a text from a mysterious someone. They send her pictures, claiming they're watching her. Meanwhile, we see an armored truck on the road, with a subdued and bound Tyler inside. Suddenly, he wakes and begins transforming into his Hyde monster.